Stocks on Wall Street end the session higher. The Nasdaq surges over 100 points to close at a record high ahead of the inflation data later this week. Markets in Asia have opened largely higher as well. Nikkei in Japan crosses 44,000 to hit fresh highs, extending its rally after Prime Minister Ishiba's resignation. The GIFT Nifty is also indicating a positive start for our own markets. Crude oil prices have gained after OPEC and allies decided to increase production by less than what market participants had anticipated. Meanwhile, gold prices have rallied to a record high above $3,600 an ounce as Fed rate cut bets solidify. Indian IT major Infosys will consider a proposal for its share buyback on the 11th of September. This marks the company's first since 2022 when it had approved a buyback of over 9,300 crore rupees. The ADR or the US listed shares gained over 2.5% last evening. And Foreign Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar virtually attends the BRICS summit hosted by Brazil. Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Putin also attend the summit. President Xi says one should adhere to openness and maintain the international economic and trade order. It's the start of a brand new day, another weekly expiry that beckons. You're watching Power Breakfast here on CNBC TV 18 in the Mumbai News Centre. I'm Hormas Fatakia. Let's first take a look at how the Asian markets have started off this morning. It's a relatively positive start for the Asian markets, continuing from where Wall Street left off last evening. The Hang Seng trading with gains of 1%. The Taiwanese index also 0.8% higher. Japan was an outperformer yesterday, continues to remain so in today's session as well, marginally off the highs of the session though. The Nikkei is now up 0.4%. It's off the 44,000 mark that it had hit in opening trade, hit a new record high, and since then has cooled off slightly from those elevated levels after Prime Minister Ishiba's resignation. Most of the other indices too continue to move higher. The Kospi in South Korea too trading with gains of around 0.6%. The Shanghai Composite though in China trading around the flat line, and that is of course because of some weak export data that was reported yesterday for the Chinese market. So barring the Chinese markets which are flat but above the flat line, most of the other indices trading with healthy gains. Pull up the GIFT Nifty as well to give you an idea of how our own markets are likely to start off. Well, a 45-point uptick, and every move yesterday's session was also sold into, but for now the implied open is suggesting a start above the mark of 24,800. It remains to be seen whether that can sustain as the weekly expiry session goes forward. But to set you up for today's trading session, our research team is here with the trade setup, stocks that are likely to be in the news as well, and we'll get you all the FNOQs for today's session as well. But first up, Vamakshi is here to get us all the market cues we need to watch out for. Vamakshi, good morning. Well, IT and banks continue to be a pain point, but hopes from Infosys today. But what are some of the other important cues you're watching out for?
Well, good morning, Hormaz. Yesterday, if we look at the session, market slipped from the highs in the final hour of trade, but nevertheless closed with modest gains of around 32 points. What actually supported the Nifty on the upside were some of these auto names. In fact, some of the top gainers yesterday, all of them were were auto stocks. In fact, auto sector was the top sectoral index, was up 3% yesterday. IT, pharma and FMCG, however, continued to see profit booking. Now, block deals are back in a big way. Yesterday we saw one in prime focus. The stock surged to 10% upper circuit for the second consecutive day. Apart from that, MobiKwik also saw a block deal. That stock was up almost 11% yesterday, and today as well there continues to be indications of a block deal for Voltam Transformers. Sources suggest that the promoter is likely to sell up to 7% stake in the company. Now, the handover that came in from Wall Street yesterday was actually very positive. All three indices closed higher. In fact, the Nasdaq managed to hit a record high driven by the AI theme stocks, which includes Broadcom as well as Nvidia, in line with what the handover from Wall Street was. The GIFT Nifty is also indicating a positive start for our own Indian markets. As far as the cues for today are concerned, we'll be keeping an eye out on Nifty's weekly expiry. Apart from that, Vikram Solar will also be reporting its numbers. PNB Housing Finance will be hosting its Investors Day, and a couple of AGM scheduled as well. So watch out for Concord Biotech, GNFC, Deepak Fort as well as 5 Star Business. Keep in mind, India will elect its new vice president 2 months after Jagdeep Dhankar stepped down. And most importantly, an Apple event is scheduled today, Apple event 2025, and we will be watching out for any product launches, including the iPhone 17 series, among other devices that the company may announce. So, Hormaz, in case if you want to upgrade, I think now that is an event that you should be watching out for.
Well, another day, another event, another iPhone. But well, Vamakshi, thank you for that update as well. We'll keep an eye out on, of course, the Apple event. Over to Upasana now, who list out the stocks that you need to watch out for in today's session. Upasana, good morning. What's on your list?
Good morning. First up, let me start with Infosys. Board to mull buyback on 11th of September is what the company has indicated. Next up is Godrej Consumer Product. The arm starts construction of a new manufacturing site in Indonesia, and the estimated investment is around 250 crores. IRB Infra, the company has reported its monthly toll collection for the month of August, which has seen an uptick of nearly about 12% on year-on-year basis. HUDCO is another one on our radar. It has signed a MOU with NMRDA to fund 11,300 crore for Nagpur Metro development over 5 years. RailTel is the other one on our radar. It has received multiple orders worth rupees 369 crores. Next up is Avantel. The company has received purchase order worth 9.8 crore from Department of Atomic Energy. Next up is Quality Power Electrical Equipments. The company has received significant order worth 75 crore by Material Steep Down subsidiary for fax system supply. Strides Pharma is the another one on our counter. Arm impact with Kenox to expand nasal spray portfolio for the US market. And lastly, according to sources, Voltam Transformers also in focus as promoters likely to sell up to 7% stake in the company. So all in all, these are the counters we'll be closely watching out for trade today.
Wow, block deals are back, as Vamakshi was also mentioning. Upasana, thank you for that update. Lastly, Mangalam joins in with cues from the FNO space. Mangalam, good morning. Yet another day when the rally could not sustain. But what's the FNO data indicating for today's session?
Well, that's exactly what took place, right? Every time we're going to levels closer to that 24,900, 25,000 mark, we are seeing that rally fizzle out, though the market is seeing support at lower levels, and that's what's keeping the bulls alive in terms of their hope as well. The mid-cap index up around 0.5% in yesterday's session. But importantly, if you look at a couple of things, yesterday's high on the Nifty, 24,885, was pretty close to the 100-day moving average. So let's see whether that, sustains or not. At the lower level, though the range was, contained at around the 24,700 to 750. Three factors to watch out for today. One will be the Nifty IT index, which has been underperforming. And after Infosys buyback announcement, will that index support the frontline index or not? Is point number one. Secondly, it is weekly options expiry day. Bulls have some momentum from last week, so let's see whether that sustains or not. And thirdly, the Indian money markets are open today after a long weekend as well, so there could be some more liquidity in the system in today's trading session. The GIFT Nifty is indicating a 45-point uptick. Let's see whether that sustains or not. In index futures, the FIs are doing almost nothing but selling. Yesterday, they bought close to around 9 odd crores, but the long exposure stands at just 8%, short exposure at 92%, with net contracts at negative 1.91 lakhs. So that's on the short side. The only, solace that bulls will have is that going into expiry, there are more puts written than calls, 3 times more puts written than calls, telling you that there is support at lower levels. 24,800 put is fairly active, premium at 54 rupees, telling you 24,750, which is closer to yesterday's low. We'll see some support. But at the higher levels, 24,850 call writers and 24,900 call writers are fairly active as well. Again, yesterday's high comes into the picture, and as does the 24,920 mark also. The Nifty likely to open around the 100-day moving average once again. Will it go and cross past that, stay above that, and 50-day moving average comes in as well? Something we'll watch out for. Bharat Forge saw a lot of short covering, so that stock was up 7% yesterday. But more importantly, Infosys will be the stock of the day. Watch out for a level of 1475. Why do I say that? Because the 1440 call in that stock is extremely active. The premium is 34 rupees. So does it sustain above that 1475 mark in today's trading session or not is the big question. And if it does, then 1500 obviously will be the next psychological level to watch out for. Also, the 1500 call has the highest open interest.
1475 and 1500, two important levels to watch for Infosys. Mangalam, thank you for that update. Take a short break. On the other side, we get you all the global updates and the action from Wall Street. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now over to the US markets then. It was a positive session for Wall Street as well on Monday. The Dow Jones gained over 100 points. The Nasdaq was the outperformer. The S&P 500 closing just above the flat line. But it was the Nasdaq that was the outperformer, closing at a record high in yesterday's trading session. CNBC's Bertha Coombs gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
Markets were up across the major indexes in Monday trading as the Nasdaq surged to a new all-time high. The Dow was up 114 points, the S&P 500 added 14, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq gained nearly 100 points to close at a new record. More signs of unease around a slowing job market. A New York Federal Reserve survey released Monday showed job seekers reported a 44% probability of securing work in August. That's a nearly 6-point drop from the month before. At the same time, expectations that the unemployment rate would be higher a year from now rose to 39.1%, which is up by about 1 point from the 12-month average. Meantime, Dick's Sporting Goods announcing on Monday that it's completed its $2.4 billion acquisition of its smaller rival Foot Locker. The deal gives Dick's a much bigger presence in the sneaker industry, now with more than 3,200 stores and access to at least 20 international markets. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back over to you in Mumbai.
Bertha Coombs, thank you for that update. Then the big trigger from last week was, of course, the jobs data, where the US just managed to add 22,000 jobs in August, which was dramatically lower than expectations of over 75,000. The unemployment rate also rose to 4.3%, which was the highest level since 2021. Now, this weak jobs data bolsters a case for a rate cut when the Fed meets next week. Listen in to what economists and market experts had to say about this report and its impact on the Fed rate outlook.
I think that the weak jobs report that we got, which sort of confirmed August weakness, really shows that the labor market has lost some momentum. It's not falling off a cliff, but it certainly has weakened over time. And even though there's reasons to believe that immigration is affecting the supply side, we're not getting as many jobs per month as needed to keep the unemployment rate constant. We saw an uptick in that unemployment rate. Again, not a crashing labor market, but certainly one that has lost some of that positive momentum. So if I were in the room, I would say, let's move ahead with a 25 basis point cut in September. We still have some more data on inflation, but we know that inflation is going to be moving up because of the tariff.
In the past, when the Fed has cut interest rates, when the economy has been doing okay, it has usually been a recipe for a bubble. That's what happened in 99, 2000. And some will argue that that's what, possibly even happened in 2021. But I think the main issue here is the fact that financial conditions are super easy. The Fed has never cut interest rates when financial conditions have been this easy. But there's no evidence, that's the point I make, that the monetary policy is being restrictive. We don't know what the neutral rate is given how fiscal policy is. The fact that you're running a fiscal deficit today of 6.5% of GDP, that's very stimulative as far as the economy is concerned. We don't know what the neutral rate really is, because the fact of the matter is that if the Fed funds rate is 4.5%, the nominal GDP growth is still well above that at 5 to 6%. So I don't see any evidence of how monetary policy is being restrictive.
Moving on to the India-US ties. Now, India's former ambassador to the US, Nirupama Rao, has called the latest President Trump, Prime Minister Modi overtures as an opening gambit, but cautioned that it should not be termed as a reset. Now, referring to the Trump administration's verbal jibes over the last few weeks as a diplomatic whiplash, Rao observed that the India-US ties have survived worse storms. Now, she also shared her views on the recalibration in the India-China ties, saying that dealing with China was like playing with a three-dimensional chess in the dark. Listen into what she had to say.
What you should expect is not a grand pivot. There are realities on the border. You're aware of the situation along the line of actual control, the unresolved problems that relate to the boundary between the two countries, the critical dependencies that have, I must say, unfortunately developed where India is concerned on China over the last couple of decades. They keep the ceiling very low on this relationship and the floor very uneven. So the SCO optics really don't erase the structural rivalry between our two countries, but they keep the door ajar. The tone today is better, but it's an opening gambit, not a reset. So if you ask me, are these statements a sign things will improve? I would say they're a de-escalation signal, certainly, and they buy both sides some breathing room. Now, there's the tariff overhang also. The US duties, as we all know, as announced, are at 50% on a wide basket, and no new talks have been announced. So both sides, I believe, needed a political valve while the officials reassess the next steps.
We'll take a short break. On the other side, we get your cues from the commodities market. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. As they say, all that glitters is gold. So Manisha Gupta is here to tell us just that and some other updates from the commodity space as well. Manisha, good morning.
Oh, well, absolutely. Another record high when it comes to gold, and $3,646 an ounce is done now, and markets are now assigning a 90% probability of a 25 basis point rate cut at the Fed meeting. That is what seems to be getting baked into the prices. Markets already have factored that in. It's going to be interesting on what the US Fed really does, whether it's going to be 25, 50. The markets are also started to bet on that. So that is what would take the prices ahead. The focus also is on the U.S. inflation data this week. You have the CPI, PPI, both of those numbers coming in. And then China has continued to buy gold for 10 straight months now, including the month of August as well. And that clearly has been the case with the central banks, which have continued to include gold in their forex reserves on a very, very strong note. The markets also are looking at weak US dollar. That also has been supportive, not just for gold, but silver, which is also trading above $41 an ounce. It's a new 14-year highs coming in for this one. And you also have crude oil prices extending modest gains. This is after OPEC Plus has increased production on a much lower scale on what they have done in previous 4 or 5 months. So overall, when you look at commodities, we are trading quite on the firm note. A quick word, by the way, on zinc as well, because that one is trading at a 5-month highs right now. Sudden gain in Asia currently. So good going for commodities.
Good going indeed. Gold at record highs, zinc at a 5-month high. Manisha, thank you for that update. Now, the stage is set for a direct contest between the ruling NDA nominee CP Radhakrishnan and joint opposition candidate B. Sudarshan Reddy for today's vice presidential elections, with the BJP-led alliance having a clear edge in the polls, necessitated due to the sudden resignation of Jagdeep Dhankar. Now, the voting will begin at 10 a.m. and members of both houses of parliament are eligible to cast a vote until 5 p.m. The counting of votes will begin shortly after voting ends, and the results will be announced later in the evening. In some international updates then, Nepal's Communications and Information Technology Minister has said that the government has rolled back the social media ban imposed last week following protests that resulted in the deaths of over 19 people. More than 100 have also been left injured in the Gen Z protests against widespread corruption and the ban. Following the deadly clashes, Nepal's Home Minister had also tendered his resignation to the Prime Minister. Now, France's parliament brought down the government on Monday over its plans to tame the ballooning national debt, deepening a political crisis that is weakening Europe's second largest economy. Lawmakers voted to oust Prime Minister François Bayrou and his minority government with 364 votes against the veteran centrist politician and only 194 in his favor. President Emmanuel Macron, who is facing calls from the opposition to dissolve parliament and resign, will instead hunt for his 5th prime minister in less than 2 years. His office said that he would appoint one in the next few days. Now, the Munich Motor Show 2025 opens for public today. All major global brands are showcasing the future of mobility and their vision and technology. Skoda has unveiled its Vision O concept car, an electrified estate blending futuristic design, AI-driven technology, sustainability and autonomous features, marking the next chapter in the brand's modern solid philosophy. Shivani Bajaj gets us a sneak peek.
How would you like a car that has a portable fridge or ice box, a Bluetooth speaker that you can take for the picnic, and well, 4 umbrellas neatly tucked in? Well, meet the Skoda Vision O that combines all of these cool features. Now, this is a concept car that Skoda has given us a preview before ahead of the Munich Motor Show here in Munich. And this is how Skoda's future cars might look like. Now, the production of this car has some time. It might go in production by 2029. So there is still time. But this is how Skoda's new age cars might look like. If you see the design language, it's very how Skoda's cars come right now as well, but a lot of modern touches to that. Now, this is a concept car I might not be able to show you, but these LED lights pop in and pop out whenever needed. So this is the design language of the new Skoda's Vision O that is, highlighted and showcased here ahead of the Munich Motor Show. Now, inside the car, if you can see, this is a modern futuristic looking car with very sleek doors as well. Now in the back, you can see that this is has a very spacious boot. If you recline the back seats, it goes to 1700, and that is a very Skoda-like thing to do. Now let me tell you inside what is the cool thing. The LED lighting inside adjusts according to the daylight, so it basically adjusts with your biometric clock, your body clock, so it gives you a feeling of the sunlight moving according to the day. Apart from that, it comes in very cool colors. If you can see, there is a monochromatic sort of a thing going on. This is beige, but there are blue tones also that you can see. I would want to focus on the car and how sleek this entire thing is. There is this air movement space over here, and aerodynamics, obviously 21-inch wheels on this one. And check this out, the horizontal display inside the car runs throughout the cabin, 1.2 meters, but there is also haptic controls so that the driver is not confused looking at the screen. So you can touch, you can use the haptic, and you can also voice control the car. So there are a lot of cool features in this car. This car might not go into production right now. The production might take some time. By 2029 is what we are expecting, but this is how the future of Skoda might look like.
Well, for those who are interested, that's the new Skoda for you. Well, Shivani, thank you for that update there from the Munich Motor Show. That's all we have on this edition of Power Breakfast. From me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call on the other side sets you up for today's trade.